Welcome to Serious Film Critics. My name is Sam.
And I'm David. With a very special episode. We're actually recording while the trick-or-treaters are probably out in force, so if you hear some strange noises in the background.
Yeah, just don't worry about it. I'm kind of wondering if I live in an apartment building. I'm wondering if we're going to get trick-or-treaters, because we definitely didn't think about candy here. We've got some extra stuff lying around, but I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know what the rules are with trick-or-treating in apartments, to be honest.
I don't know. I didn't even think about it as a possibility, but then I remember I have seen some kids in the building, so I don't know if they're going to go to a neighborhood and walk around, or just literally walk around the halls of the apartment.
It's going to be pretty good. They're knocking on your door.
Well, happy Halloween, everybody. Happy Halloween, Dave. Are you, I'm guessing you're not dressed up.
No, never. I hate Halloween.
Me neither. I don't remember the last time I wore a Halloween costume. It's probably been since college.
I don't even think I've worn one since I was in high school, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't think of the last one I was every year I tell myself I'm going to do something cool for Halloween. It never ends up happening. Usually I have to work, but or have work the next day or something like I do today, but yeah, no Halloween costume on my front, but we've got an awesome Halloween packed episode for you today. We're going to be reviewing a couple of kind of retro Halloween, I don't want to say necessarily classics, but we're doing Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and Pet Sematary, directed by Mary Lambert. I had to think about that one. Yeah, I had to have the list there. And we're also going to be talking about a couple movies we've been watching lately, maybe some TV shows, and finishing things off with a top 5 horror list. So we've got a pretty festive episode coming at you today. So, alrighty. Any other housekeeping to do, Dave, or should we jump into things?
I think we're good. My dog's probably going to be going nuts all night, so that's going to make for an interesting episode.
Ooh, man, you got a lot of dogs. You got the Hey Arnold house of pets, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much, and some of them are very loud, so hopefully they don't ruin my recording too much. Let's just drop right into this thing.
Yeah, have you had any kids come yet?
I don't know. I hear yelling, so it's possible.
All right, well, we'll get this going then. So, firstly, we're just going to do a quick What We Watch segment. So we'll just plow through these, each one, one after another. So what have you been watching, Dave?
I've actually been watching a lot of stuff on Netflix, mostly TV. First one I wanted to talk about was the show Atypical. Have you heard of this?
I have. I feel like I've heard good things. I don't know, though. I'm not sure what it's about or anything.
It's basically about this kid who has autism. It's really short. It's only a few episodes. And he basically, at the beginning of the show, decides he wants a girlfriend. I can't remember why. And it's a comedy. And he basically has kind of a dysfunctional family. And he's basically just goes through all this wacky hijinks to try and get a girlfriend. And it was all right. It was a little better than I expected. I expected crap because the cast wasn't very good. It's some typical TV actors you would expect. That guy, Michael Rappaport, I think his name is.
Oh, okay, yeah. He's in that?
Yeah, and then I think, what was her name? Jennifer Jason Leigh? Is that her name?
Yeah,
maybe.
she's
yeah. Cast was
she was in Hateful Eight, right? I liked her in that.
Yeah,
but,
I think
she also does a lot of other stuff.
Might have the name wrong. Either way, it was interesting. It was better than I expected. Then I tried watching.
Is that a Netflix original or
yeah, it is.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then I watched this show called Mindhunter. Have you heard of this?
I have. Is David Fincher involved with that or something, or
he might be? I'm not sure.
I feel like it's either his concept or he might have directed the first episode or something. I don't really know what the show's about, but I remember hearing his name attached to it.
Yeah, I feel like he might be. I'd have to check, but it's basically about FBI agents in the 70s. I guess they basically came up with the whole idea of a serial killer, and man, the lead actor in that show is so bad that I had to stop watching. I actually really didn't like the show. A lot of people like it. And the whole time I was just thinking, this guy sucks. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's not really his fault. Maybe he's just miscast, but he's just really annoying.
What is he, whiny or what's his deal?
He's really young. He's I don't know. It's hard. He just puts me off really big time. He's not convincing at all.
Man, is this based around the Zodiac killings from the 60s and 70s?
No, I think it's actually based on 2 real life FBI agents who came up with the whole idea, and they interviewed some serial killers from the 70s, some famous ones like Ed Kemper, somebody else famous.
I gotcha.
And then I guess before that, they really didn't have any idea how serial killers worked, and then they kind of come up with the idea. But it just, I couldn't get into it at all.
Oh, man. I've heard some, like, hype around that, too, so that's kind of surprising. But
Yeah, it has a lot of hype.
yeah, if you got a main actor that you just can't stand, that's definitely going to derail a series, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine, like, Breaking Bad or something if you hate Walter White or, like, think Bryan Cranston's a terrible actor. Like, that's not going to work.
That's it.
I can jump into the big TV I've been watching. I watched Stranger Things Season 2. I binged it. You didn't watch any of it, did you?
No, not yet.
Like, it's okay. It's I was like I'm a lot more lukewarm on this show than everybody else seems to be, because this is like the thing right now. People are just freaking out about this show, like they were the same way about season 1. And like to me it's a very watchable series. Like it's entertaining, I'll give it that, but man, like I do not think it deserves the praise that gets heaped upon it. Like it's really just, to me, the only thing it does well is just being entertaining. Like, I will say the performances by the kids in the show are really, really good. So the kids kind of keep you engaged, but man, it doesn't do anything particularly well. I mean, like visually, it's like lifting from a lot of shows from the 80s, and I think that's why it's so popular, is because everybody is just like in complete 80s nostalgia, like that Amblin-esque wave right now. That anything
80s nostalgia is huge right now.
Oh, it's huge. So it's like people just love that. But season 2, which I was hoping would be better than season 1, I think was actually a little bit worse. They tried to make the storyline a whole lot bigger, and like basically it's just a really standard story. Like this one kid, in both seasons, the same kid kind of either gets abducted or possessed by this entity. And in the first season, it's basically just a smaller monster, and in this season it's like this giant like spider sort of like psionic mind control monster, and it's really the same type of plot the whole way throughout. The kids just kind of like work with the local law enforcement to like try to figure out what's going on, and there's like the mom is freaking out. Winona Ryder's in it, she plays the mom, and she's not that good in it.
Oh, really?
She's like freaking out in every scene, just in a not really convincing way. So, I mean, I would recommend it it's entertaining. Like, the show kind of keeps you watching, so that I'll give it that much. But other than the performances of the main kids, I can't really it doesn't do anything particularly well. It just like really reminds you of better movies and shows from the 80s, like, you know, E.T. and like Close Encounters of the Third Kind and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people seem to think it transcends that, and I don't think it elevates it at all. It really is just kind of copying the best elements of those things and slapping it onto a really conventional, ultimately unsatisfying monster plotline. And that's probably my biggest like complaint about both seasons, is the ending is just, there's no payoff. And I think it's because they don't have the budget for it, but like both of the endings of each season are just really underwhelming. But I mean, it sounds like I'm just shitting all over it, but it's not bad. Like it's a fun watch, but definitely overrated compared to what everybody's saying. So let's see, what else do I have? I have a lot of horror movies. I'll mention a couple of them. Like I watched have you ever seen Night of the Creeps?
I don't think so.
It's an 80s movie. It's pretty good. Man, it's been a couple weeks since I watched it now, but basically it's sort of like Cabin in the Woods is, but like a better, slightly less meta version in the 80s. Like it kind of throws like all types of horror tropes in one movie, and it's pretty entertaining. I watch the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I've seen before.
I actually still haven't seen that.
Oh, you haven't seen that? It's something. I like it. It's really weird. Like you have to check it out at some point. Have you watched anything else? You can kick it back to you.
I've also been watching. Have you seen Parks and Recreation yet?
I watched the first 2 seasons. I like it. I kind of just fell off for some reason.
Yeah, I've been watching that again. It's good. It's also fun seeing Chris Pratt in it because his career exploded because of this TV show. His career exploded.
Yeah, this was like his thing, right? That kind of.
I mean, and watching it again, I feel like it's just as funny, but I feel like some of the characters I don't like nearly as much. But I do like it a lot, and I feel like it does a lot of good things that most TV shows don't do.
Yeah, I like it. It's actually, I feel like you might be on my girlfriend Jess's side, we were kind of having this talk last night. She was comparing it to The Office, and she likes Parks and Rec better. I'm obviously a big Office head, so I
I
like
think
The Office better.
The Office has maybe it would even be a better show for the first few seasons, but Parks and Rec is way funnier. I mean, it's not even close for me. Some of the jokes in Parks and Rec, like you've seen the first episode of the second season where Ron has a hernia.
Yeah,
I mean that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen on TV.
That is like the humor in it is great. I always feel like, I mean, it's gonna be weird to say because I don't necessarily feel like the Office characters always feel real, but to me, I always just feel like I'm definitely watching characters when I watch Parks and Rec, whereas the Office sometimes feels like closer to home or something, like closer to like people I've known, or it feels realer. So I just love. I think for me too, Office has like always been a part of my life, whereas Parks and Rec is like something I kind of came on to the last few years. So I'd go Office over Parks and Rec, but it's definitely a good show, and Ron Swanson is hilarious.
Yeah, actually, like I'm not even sure he's the best character. Like looking back now, it's like everybody really pulls their own weight, but I feel like the characters are just so well written.
Have you watched like the whole thing, or?
I actually never finished. I think I got to the 6th. I think it's 7 seasons, maybe. I got to like the season before the last, before I gave up.
Oh man, you got to finish that thing. You're so close.
I know. Well, I'm just starting over from the beginning. I'm on like season 4 now, so.
Nice. How far did you get on The Office? I know you were rewatching that. Recently,
I can't remember what season I was in, but it was like, it was around when Michael starts dating like the woman from HR.
Oh, so you got pretty far then. You were in like...
Yeah, that was by far the farthest I've ever gotten. I had never watched it before that. And now I'm not really watching it anymore, so I'm not sure if I'm going to pick it up again or not.
Well, you've pretty much seen the best that it has to offer. If you've seen those first, I would say 3, possibly 4 seasons, like you've seen the best it's going to be.
I figured as much.
I think that's my biggest problem with The Office is that it's so good to me for those first like 4... maybe even 5 seasons, and then it's like not good after that, or at least mostly not good. And it's
I don't think I could make it to the
frustrating.
end.
No, I could barely make it to the end, and like I love that show. Like the ending, the last few seasons, they bring in like James Spader and like Will Ferrell is like the boss for like a season or something. It's just brutal.
They pull out all the stops, I guess.
Yeah, they really try to do everything. Like Dwight is like a manager for a couple episodes. It's just not good in the least.
What did you think of Phil Helms' character on there?
See, he's also one, like, I love him the first few seasons he's in, and then he just gets annoying after that. Like, I feel like his character kind of, he, like, changes. He becomes, I agree. Like, there's, like, a total character change where he's, like, kind of this annoying, like, almost, like, lampooning, like, bro culture type guy, and then he goes into, like, this, like, and then he kind of becomes, like, this dandy. Like, this, like, I don't know. Like, he just, I wasn't crazy about his character arc.
Yeah.
I watched Prince. Have you ever seen Prince of Darkness?
I don't think so.
Man, that is. I had never seen it before. I've just heard it like mentioned as like a cult classic. John Carpenter directed it. It's like an 80s one. It was freaking awesome.
Oh, really?
It's yeah, it was really good. It's basically set in this church and I don't know if it's New York or something, but basically these kind of demonic forces just converge around the church, and basically Satan is like kind of contained in like this liquid form in the basement of the church in this like canister. It's like so out there, but and then Satan kind of escapes and is like taking over people, and then it's a wild movie, man. But you gotta check this thing out because I really enjoyed it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like, you've seen Big Trouble in Little China, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of that, like a more horror version of it, but definitely awesome. And that's really about it, other than the movies we've been watching for the podcast. I watched Chopping Mall too, which it's horrible.
Yeah,
it's some like 80s movie. Like robots take over this mall and they kill people, and I don't even want to devote any time to it. It's kind of fun if you're in like just in the mood to watch something like that, but very forgettable. You got anything else?
I think that's it. I'll probably think of something after we finish and whatever.
Yeah, it's all good. All right, so let's jump into these reviews. So I think it's probably best to start with Pet Sematary. So yeah, Pet Sematary from 1989, directed by Mary Lambert. You want to take us into this thing?
Yeah, these synopsises are going to be shorter than usual.
Yeah.
Especially when we do Dracula. You're in for a treat for that one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so basically it's based on the book by Stephen King. Apparently Stephen King was really heavily involved making this movie, so I think it stayed pretty faithful to the book. So yeah, it stars...
Yeah, I think he wrote it. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he wrote the screenplay for this too, and apparently he was present on set for most of it.
Oh,
He's
man.
in the film too.
Is he really? Who does he?
He was at the funeral. He was that had to be him, right?
At the... Wait, oh, at the funeral.
Yeah, he was the minister at the funeral. I knew that was him.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Yeah, I can see what. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. I was trying not to zone out.
It was
for
actually
parts
kind of
of it.
jarring for me because I was like, wow, it's very obvious that's Stephen King.
I'm not that familiar with what I like. I know generally what he looks like, but I'm not like. I don't know that I'd be able to pick him out that easily.
The glasses are a big giveaway. He has those big glasses.
Yeah. That's cool though. I didn't know that.
All right, so let's jump into this thing. So it stars Dale Midkiff, Fred Gwynn from the Munsters, and then some people I've never heard of. Yeah, so basically, like this guy Lewis Creed and his family moved to some road, and there's basically they moved to a house in Maine. He's going to be like a doctor at the University of Maine or something like that. And the road, as we see in the beginning, has these truckers that just like apparently go like 100 miles an hour now, and it's extremely dangerous. And they move into the house, and they have two small children and a cat named Church. They have a little girl and a little boy, and they have a next door neighbor named Judd, played by Fred Gwynn. we're gonna get into the way he talks because I'm curious.
Yeah, we'll talk about him.
Yeah, we're gonna do some impersonations, I think. Yeah, he lives across the street, and he tells him how the road is super dangerous. He's trying to do something about it, basically because there's always pets getting killed by trucks on the road. So they move in. He's friendly. He becomes their friend. He shows them down the road. There's a pet cemetery, which is where the title comes from. Where because so many animals get killed on the road, they all bury their pets there in the cemetery. And it's really like eerie looking, and there's like this giant, like, I really like the way they did this with like all the branches and stuff covering up part of it.
Yeah, that was cool. The cemetery looked cool.
Yeah. So then first I think the next thing that happens is one day at school, some guy, I forgot what his name is, Pascal or something.
Pascal, I think that's it.
Yeah, Pascal. Yeah. He's a student at the school. He gets hit by a car, and his brain is like hanging out of his head. So Lewis tries to save him, but can't. And then, like in his dying moment, he basically thanks him for trying to save him. And I think he actually tells him already, "Don't go to the pet cemetery." So that night, that night he has a dream where he actually follows the ghost of Pascal to the pet cemetery, and he's like, "The ground is sour. Do not use the pet cemetery. Don't go to the pet cemetery." So after that.
Or does he say not go to the pet cemetery, or like go to that like place beyond it?
Well, yeah, the real pet cemetery is the Indian burial ground beyond it.
Yeah.
And he says don't go there because that's basically you bury stuff there, it comes back to life, but what you put in ain't what you get out.
Nah.
Yeah. So then we find out that Lewis doesn't like his wife Rachel's parents, so they go to Chicago for Thanksgiving, and while they're gone, the cat, there's also a housekeeper. I don't think we're even going to talk about her in the terms of the plot.
No, I can't remember her name or anything.
I don't know why she's in the movie.
Forget her.
I don't know. Yeah, while they're gone, Church gets run over by a truck, and Lewis is like, well, she's gonna be destroyed. Her cat got killed while she was on vacation, and Judd's like, all right, follow me. So he picks up the cat. He has him follow him out. He goes back to the pet cemetery, and then they have to climb over the branches, and then they apparently hike for like hours to get to the real Indian burial ground, which is this pretty ominous, gigantic, obviously evil-looking burial ground.
It was really bizarre how Judd was like trekking that. It almost made him seem like he was like supernatural or something. He was like having no problem getting through it. And that guy's old, man. He looks like he's like 70, 80 years old.
Yeah, like Lewis was like struggling severely to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they get there, and he tells him to bury the cat. He doesn't even tell him what for. And then the next night, I think it's like the next day, Church comes back, but he's not the same. He's evil now. Evil cat.
Yeah, you could see it in the eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Judd basically tells him that you can bury stuff there. He tells him a story about when his dog... There was a plot hole in this movie that is you can drive a fucking spaceship through. We'll get to that later. He tells him how his dog died and it destroyed him, so he went and buried the dog at the Indian burial ground. The dog came back, but this time it was evil, and he had to kill the dog, right?
Dude, these flashbacks are the best, man. They, like, every character seems to have them, and like especially Judd's. Like, it's just like so on the nose. Like, it's just like he just flashes back to the, and there's the dog like rah, rah, like with its face torn off.
Yeah. So then, I'm trying to remember what happens next. Well, let's just move on. So basically, they get back from Chicago. The cat still, is still evil, but it doesn't bother really anybody but Lewis. And then I think actually we have a scene with Rachel's sister, which also isn't, I guess that's relevant to the plot, but basically her sister had spinal meningitis and they locked the sister in a room to die. Yeah. So the mother is like really terrified of death. All the characters have different reasons for being afraid of death. So then moving along, they're on a picnic one day and their idiot son, I don't remember what his name is, Gage, runs out to the street. They can't catch up to him, and the truck's rolling about 100 miles an hour, kills the kid.
Dude, this is like a really small country road, and these trucks are flying.
It's obvious that they filmed them not going that fast and sped the film up a lot.
Yeah.
Because it's not natural how they're driving.
No,
yeah, I mean, it's like, clearly they just took frames out of it.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious, like, because they're not moving at like any kind of natural-looking speed.
Yeah,
yeah.
So they have the funeral, doesn't go so well. We'll leave it at that, and then Lewis is all upset, and then Rachel decides to go visit her parents again. I don't know why, and takes the daughter with them. So it's just Lewis there, and Judd invites him over, and he's like, "Look, I know what you're thinking. Don't bury your son in the Indian burial ground."
Judd knows what's up.
Sometimes dead is better. You just keep...
All right, I gotta I saved a quote of his that man, like I was doing his voice good.
I was doing it better earlier. Sometimes dead is better.
It's like it's easier when you've just seen him doing it.
Yeah.
But it's just like this one line is just ridiculous. It's like, I told you it's a bad road, Ellie. Killed a lot of pets.
That road.
Killed a lot of pets and made a lot of kids unhappy. I can't, man. Like, it's so like you got to hear this guy.
The way
talk,
he talks is something.
It is classic.
And he basically, it's almost like he wasn't thinking about doing it before, and he's like, "Well, Judd, now that you reminded me that there's an Indian burial ground there, let me bury my son there." So Lewis digs up his son, buries him there, goes back home, and then the son comes home and he's already evil, like immediately. And then the son sneaks into Judd's house, kills Judd, and then Lewis like somehow remembers or like realizes his mistake, so he gets a bunch of morphine, I guess, to kill his son again. And while that's happening, Rachel gets a phone. What does Pascal call? Oh yeah, Pascal like visits the daughter in a dream and is like, bad stuff's going down. You need to get over there. So he helps Rachel get back in time. And first Rachel goes into... Rachel gets killed at Judd's house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rachel...
Because then he burns the house.
Yeah, Rachel goes in there, finds her son Gage, and she's so shocked at what happened, she lets him kill her, basically. So all her effort was for nothing, which really bothered me.
Yeah.
And then, so then Lewis kills Gage with the morphine, and he talks to Pascal again, and he's like, all right, if I buried her right away, it would have worked. So then he takes Rachel and buries her in the Indian burial ground.
Makes perfect logical sense.
Yeah. So then, he goes back home, and he's obviously, like, mentally just he's, like, not normal anymore. And then she comes home, starts kissing him, and kills him. And that's the end of the movie.
That's the end of Pet Sematary. It's a real bad. It's a bad road.
Bad road.
That's a real. You gotta watch it. A lot of cats and dogs have been killed on that road.
Brown and sour.
There's a lot of pets. Pets died there. A lot of pets died there.
Yeah, dude, I used up a lot of pets.
I can't emphasize, like, that's literally, he's my favorite part of the movie, and like mostly in a jokey way. Like, I mean, I thought his performance was okay, like it's pretty good, but his voice is just classic. Like,
it really is.
I can't. I know he's been in stuff. I think he was the judge in My Cousin Vinny.
But it's I think so.
But his voice in this movie is like, it's just perfect. Like, it's
It really is.
especially combined with some of those ridiculous lines of dialogue. Like, I just can't emphasize how, like, I was losing it during this.
I mean, yeah.
But what did you think of this overall?
I think I thought the plot of the movie was actually interesting. Maybe because it was based on a book. Like, the Indian burial ground was a cool idea, and like, burying stuff there. I thought the plot was interesting. It's just that the execution was poor. I did like Judd, honestly. I mean, I thought his performance was probably the best in the movie.
Yeah.
And it feels like a lot of stuff wasn't realized. Like, I like the idea of Pascal as a character, but it's like everything he did was for nothing.
I hated it. This was brutal for me, and it's sad because like I logged on Letterboxd and I said this, like I had never sat down and watched this movie. Like, I've probably seen most of it because we've had it on in our friend Adam's basement before, and like, to me, it's like I kind of liked it. Like, I went into this viewing like, oh, this is gonna be pretty good. Like, I feel like I've kind of like enjoyed it, and I think I've just had fond memories of the voice of,
yeah,
and like I had seen parts of it was kind of fun, and like to me, this is a great background movie, but having to sit down and actually watch it and attempt to like pay attention to it scene by scene, like, it was brutal for me. Like, I was really struggling, not zoning out. I skipped over the part where the kid kills Judd and the mom because I remember that scene really vividly.
Yeah, that was
like I've seen that scene a lot before, and I just needed to get through the movie. Like, I was like, I can't make it. Like, I've got to cut some of this. Like,
I actually think that the movie basically falls apart at the end for sure.
Yeah, but I love Judd. I mean, Judd is what's making the movie for me. The voice is amazing. Like, I think he does a good job. Like, but to me, I think the basis of the plot, like, to me, this is a movie that I can see it making a really interesting book, but it just doesn't translate to being a good movie. Like, there is way too much, like, stuff going on, and none of it, I feel like, is realized well at all. Like,
yeah, you're right.
I think
the housekeeper, it's like, why is she even in the movie? Because they don't even really make any references to her later.
No, and it's like, I don't, like, she's creepy. Like, it almost seems like she knows what's going on with the road and the burial ground, but like, because she just has a very like unnerving air, but then she just kills herself. Like, I don't know. I don't know what her character is there to do. And there's just ideas that are like, they're like brought up and then like dropped. Like, literally, this movie is like immediately introduced, like, it's going to be about the road. Like, this road is like, everyone is talking about the road early on.
Yeah.
Like, this road, you got to watch out for this road. Like, and the pet cemetery is like, right next to the road. Like, those two things are like, that feels like what the movie's going to be based around. But then they introduce, this burial ground. And then there's like, Pascal, who's like just thrown in there, and then there's the people coming back to dead from the Indian burial ground. Then there's the cat. Then there's the like flashbacks. Like, there's so much going on in this movie, and I just feel like it's all executed really poorly. And it just like, I was having a brutal time with it. Like,
I really think the book is probably better because a lot of the ideas, like, they probably have way more time to flesh out like Pascal and the housekeeper.
Yeah, like, I think Pascal is a cool idea for a character, and like, I didn't mind him in parts, but maybe because it's a movie, like, it just feels like it was so rushed. Like, why is this character so attached to the doctor? Like, it doesn't even seem like the doctor tried that hard to revive him.
Yeah, he basically didn't do anything. He's basically, this guy's dead.
Yeah, he just like kind of was like, let's, and he was like very like nonchalant about it. He's like, let's throw in some CCs of this. Like, he was like very casual, and it seems like the guy died, and then he's like buddies with him through, and like he's like a guide throughout the rest of the movie, and it just didn't feel earned at all. And the whole like pet cemetery thing, I felt like was totally overshadowed. Like, the pet cemetery looks cool. It's a cool set piece, and like, the cat is brought back, but then it's like the rest of the movie is focused on the burial ground pretty much, like going past the pet cemetery into that burial ground. And it's also really weird because the Judd initially acts like the burial ground is like, you might as well use it. Why not? Like, bring your cat back. But then it's like, then he's warning them about how evil it is. And it's like, if he knows that happened to his dog, like his dog was like a freaking zombie dog, like, why would he suggest that the guy bring the cat back? Like, it just...
Yeah, that was by far the biggest plot hole of the film is he knows that his doll came back and was literally evil. So why would he even tell them about this place if he knows it's evil? I mean, like, he never would have known about it, and he would not have had the idea to bury his son there.
Why would he have that? Like, why would Judd encourage him to use the burial ground? And like, and then I was like, oh wait, is Judd like a bad guy? Like, because I couldn't really remember too well. Like, but no, Judd's like a pretty good guy throughout. He just gives horrible advice on that one like segment. Like, it just
then he tells him again, and it's almost like maybe he wasn't thinking about doing it. He's like, now I know what you're thinking. And he's like, maybe he wasn't thinking that, and now he's definitely thinking that because you told him again.
Yeah, it's like he wasn't even thinking that, but then he's like, kind of brings it up, like, and the guy has the idea. Like, it's just, I don't know, man. Like, it was brutal for me. Like, there's some creepy imagery at times, and Judd is awesome, but that is the only thing pretty much bringing this up for me. Like, I thought the other performances were pretty not good.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think anybody else in the film gave a good performance.
The dad is like wooden. The kid is. I mean, you can't knock a like 3-year-old or a 4-year-old too much, but the kid is terrible.
Yeah,
like,
especially Gage, the boy. Like, he's just not scary. It's like, okay, this is obviously like a little kid goofing off.
Yeah, seriously. Like, it almost seems like they tried to like edit his performance, and it just didn't work. Like, the mom is kind of just forgettable. Like, like Pascal's okay, but it just, like, I feel like that would have been a good character if he had been established properly, but I feel like he was established so poorly that it turned out bad.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, his presence in the film didn't make sense. Like, I thought he was an interesting character, but he didn't make sense being there.
No. Like, this is a movie where it's just like they threw so much crap in there, and it just like, again, it's like it felt like it belonged in a book and not a movie, and it just like, again, I still think this is a movie like if you watch it like in the background or something, it's kind of an enjoyable watch. But if you're like, for me, trying to pay attention to it was like, it was torture. But
yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to think what else. I don't really even remember the score that much.
Actually, the music is pretty decent, especially like there's like a good synth score when they're going to the burial ground the first time.
Oh yeah,
there's some decent music. I mean, nothing special, but
there's like that piano theme at the end. Like, what was there? Performances. What else about this? Again, I think it's just too much crap crammed into. But and that's the thing. It felt too long to me, but it also, like, if they had wanted to realize this stuff, it almost would have needed to be a lot longer. Like,
I feel like the pacing wasn't very well done.
No, the pacing wasn't good. I don't know. I don't have a whole lot else to say about it.
I think we can tie this one up already, to be honest.
Yeah, let's just cut it, because again, for me, like, some of the imagery and Judd were what made it. So what are you going to give it out of 10?
I'll give it a 5 out of 10.
Ooh, I'm torn here. I think I'm gonna go a light 3.
Ooh,
that's that's all I got. If it weren't for Judd and his voice, like, this would seriously be like a 1 for me. Like, alrighty, so that is Pet Sematary. Not as good as I thought it was gonna be. So let's move on to 1992's Francis Ford Coppola directed Bram Stoker's Dracula. So we're just going to
give you a heads up. This movie has a very disjointed narrative. It's very hard to follow. So we're going to give you a very brief synopsis, and we're going to try our best.
Let's just like hit the major plot points, because this movie is like, it's very hard to be followed as strictly a narrative.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this. I don't understand what he was doing when he did this. So, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, starring Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, Keanu Reeves, Anthony Hopkins, Carrie Yules, I think some other people too. It's got a big cast. Yeah, so basically it opens with Dracula's defending his kingdom from the Turks, and while he's away, his wife, played by Winona Ryder, commits suicide because she thinks he's dead, even though he's not. So he comes back, and he's really mad, like, this is what I get for defending God's kingdom, whatever. And he decides he's like, renounces God and stabs this statue, which like bleeds. And he basically just says he's going to have powers now. So it doesn't really make sense how he gets the powers, but he has powers.
Oh, he's got them.
Yeah, so then it skips forward like 400 years into the 90s. And I actually think that the first thing it shows is that guy in the insane asylum.
Yeah, Renfield.
Yeah, Renfield. He was the guy. Basically, he was the guy that they sent before to try and help this guy buy, because Dracula wants to buy property in London. And he went insane and became like a minion for Dracula. So then they send Jonathan Harker, played by Keanu Reeves. We'll talk about this a lot.
Yeah, we will.
And they're like, if you do this, you're in. So go there and help him work out all the stuff in Transylvania. So he rides the train to Transylvania, leaves his fiance, played by Winona Ryder again, behind, who is like the reincarnation of Dracula's wife. And while he's gone, or he goes there to help Dracula do stuff, I don't know, buy the property. And when he gets there, like all kinds of weird stuff is going on. And like, yeah, like Dracula's just super weird.
I gotta say, like, we'll get into this, but I would have been immediately terrified upon seeing Dracula.
Yeah, like, I mean, he's obviously like this evil monster. He's like white skin, crazy hair. He just acts like he's like on drugs.
And Keanu Reeves is like, he just doesn't seem nearly as like disturbed as he should. Like it literally, the second I saw Dracula, I would run. And like,
yeah,
like I would be on that carriage trying to get away. Like,
yeah.
And yet Keanu Reeves kind of, treats him with a fair degree of hospitality and is like, just very businesslike.
Yeah, and he keeps doing all this weird stuff to Keanu, and Keanu's just like, oh, all right, yeah, this is okay with me. I'm okay with this.
Somehow I don't mind it.
Yeah. So then finally, I guess he helps him work out his stuff. He sends letters back home, and then Dracula's 3 like brides basically like imprison Harker and like keep draining his blood to keep him weak. So while they're doing that, Dracula gets on a boat and takes a bunch of boxes of Transylvanian earth with him, because I guess he needs that to sleep on. So while he's on the boat, he's just killing the crew when they have no idea what's going on. Takes the boat to London. So then we go back to London, and it's what's Winona Ryder's name?
What's her? Mina.
Oh yeah, Mina. Mina's staying with her friend Lucy, who's rich and has like a bunch of suitors. I didn't really understand the relationship between these 3 dudes. One of them is her fiance, and then there's also a doctor and like a cowboy.
Yeah, I think she's just kind of like using most of them, like.
But it's like they're all friends with each other.
Yeah, it's weird. It doesn't really it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But she's just kind of toying with them, I think.
Yeah. So one's a doctor, one's a cowboy, and then her fiance is Carrie Yules. I don't know what he does. And so while that's going on, Dracula gets to London. He finds Mina. He looks a lot younger now. He looks like an attractive, weird dude. He tracks her down, starts seducing her, and at the same time, he basically turns Lucy into a vampire by sneaking into her room as a bat. So then they know she's been turned, so the doctor, one of the 3 suitors, calls up his boy, writes a letter to Van Helsing, played by Anthony Hopkins. So Van Helsing comes and wants to try and help, but really all he does is ends up killing her as a vampire. Because they try to save her from Dracula, but they're unable to, so they end up having to go to her grave and chop her head off and like stick a stake through her heart.
Oh yeah.
So then they know that he's after Mina, and I think that Harker is back at this point.
Yeah, Harker gets back.
So then they put Mina in this house and they try to defend her from Dracula, but he ends up getting her. Takes her back to Transylvania with them. So they basically get on a train to try and track him down. While they're there, I think they try to do a decoy or something too with Van Helsing.
Yeah, her and Van Helsing go a separate way to try to fool him into not realizing that the other boys are going to try to intercept him.
Yeah, so and in the meantime, Mina and Harker get married. So they track him down. They end up having a fight, and then finally, I think the cowboy gets killed. And finally, Mina just ends up chopping off Dracula's head, and he gets to be with his Elizabeth in heaven.
Nice. Well, that was a pretty well done synopsis there for that movie.
This is a pretty long movie, and we had to skip over some stuff. But I mean,
so Dave, what did you think of Dracula?
I gotta tell you, in the beginning, I was almost I thought the effects were kind of cool, but I was like, well, because apparently, basically every single effect in this movie was done in camera, which is why they were so weird.
Yeah.
some of the effects I thought were just like ridiculous. Like, but I also thought a lot of the effects looked really good, and they were inventive and stuff. Like, I thought the cast looked good. This narrative in this film was so hard for me to follow that I didn't like the movie because of it.
Yeah,
and
it's
I didn't like Anthony Hopkins very much, and then obviously like the elephant in the room is Keanu Reeves, he should never have been in this movie. I mean, he was so bad.
Well, I'm just gonna say overall, I borderline love this movie.
Really?
I do, and it's a movie that I'm not gonna sit here and try to pretend it's not a really flawed movie, because I think it is, but to me, the good things about this movie shine so bright for me that it like overshadows everything else. Like, but firstly, we'll get into Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves is terrible. Like, he is like, I don't necessarily mind watching him. Like, I can go, but he's bad. Like, he's not good. He
sounds like he came straight out of Bill and Ted and did this film. Like, his accent is so unconvincing.
I think this is like often cited as like one of the worst attempts at a movie accent, and it's rightfully so. Like, he is horrendous. Like, he's just totally miscast. He just has that that stoned look on his face the whole movie, and it's almost like he doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, he really was out of his element.
He really was. Like, I don't think he knew what was going on. Like, the accent is terrible. Like, when he tries to do the accent, and it's just so bad. Like what's going on? I can't even do it. I really can't even do like an impersonation of it. It's just, you have to watch it for yourself.
Yeah, I was thinking we should try. It literally, just imagine his character from Bill and Ted trying to do a British accent.
Yeah, or just Keanu Reeves. You imagine like Neo trying to do like I know kung fu.
Like, my dearest Mina. Whoa, Dracula.
I've been imprisoned. I can't even do it. You just have to watch it.
He's terrible. And I actually think they may have realized their mistake, because he drops out of the film for a pretty long time.
He does, and then he's kind of like just part of the gang after that. So they kind of minimize his starring role. As far as the narrative goes, I don't know. I just don't mind it. I can understand someone not liking that at all, but to me, it's just, this movie in a way is kind of like, it just throws so much crap at you, almost like in a way like Pet Sematary does. But to me, it's almost like if something like Pet Sematary had been done by someone who is like a visual master and with amazing cinematography and like great lighting and production design. Like, it just, to me, all the extra elements like complement this movie so well that I'm just like, I'm in. And I think Gary Oldman's awesome. Like, I think he does a really good job as Dracula. And there are times in this movie where it's like, it is ridiculous. Like, and I wouldn't like classify it as a comedy, and it's almost like played so overly seriously and like melodramatically that like there are times in this movie when I laughed, like, and I was just like, whoa, what?
Yeah, especially when we first see Dracula. I mean, he's so ridiculous.
Like the beginning, for example, even like it's just so over the top, and just like with the crazy lighting and like the this like overly epic story, and like him stabbing the cross and drinking the blood, and he's just yelling and like going crazy, like, and it's played so over the top and like so ridiculously that I was laughing during it, and it's like, I don't know that I'm supposed to be laughing, but yet at the same time I'm still really liking it. And that's kind of how I felt about most of the movie. Like, even when you see Dracula for the first time, like he's like a freaking monster. Like, he's like all white, he has this like ridiculous like bun hairdo with like this huge robe on, and like these like claw-like fingers, and like it's so ridiculous, but I just was like digging it. I can't think of too many movies like this for me that I simultaneously like love but also just find utterly ridiculous. And to me, this is just one of those movies that it somehow manages to thread both of those lines for me and just be really good for me. But it's an experience.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was the opposite. I felt like,
yeah,
I like plenty of disjointed narratives, but it's like, it felt like this one was just disjointed because he did a bad job of it. It like just felt like it was like he patched together random scenes, and everything else just like didn't work for me that well. Like I thought some of the effects were pretty cool, like some of the costume design was good, but I also thought some of it was bad, and some of it I also feel like the actors were mostly a weakness. Like I didn't think Anthony Hopkins was very good in this. I don't know why. Just feel like he was miscast.
I thought he was pretty good. I'm not. I wasn't. He kind of grows on me as the movie goes on, but like, and I will agree. Like some of the narrative is an issue. Like there are times like people just pop up and like it's unclear. It's very unclear like what Dracula is buying. Like he's buying up property in London. It's very unclear why he's doing that. And it's like then the whole thing with Renfield is like
yeah, that Renfield thing was not really resolved.
It's not really fleshed out well. Like. But again, it's like, to me, there's always something to like counterbalance that. Like even the Renfield scene, like I think the character is interesting. Like I don't necessarily, it's not clear enough what he's doing and what his goals are. But like just the scene where he's eating bugs and like he's bugging out and like it's just still very interesting to me. And like I find most of this movie to be very interesting. Like I'm always interested. I'm not always like. I don't always know exactly what's going on, and some things don't make sense, and some of it's ridiculous, but I was always on board for it, and I can understand someone not being on board for it, but to me, it's just one of those movies where the positives win the day for me, but I don't think Winona Ryder's all that great. She's okay.
Yeah, I was not very impressed with her. I also feel like the fact that he did all the in-camera effects, like I feel like some of them he should have just been willing to go outside the camera, basically.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I think the cinematography is awesome. I love the lighting and some of the scenes. Like I think that the whole production design and cinematography of the Dracula's castle is awesome. Like it just feels very big and ominous, and like that's
the
chase
castle
scene
looked
at the
amazing.
It did, and the chase scene at the end where they're going over the pass with the sun going down, like I thought was really cool, and like there were just so many cool things in this movie that I felt were just totally, you don't see it really many other places, and I kind of think Francis Ford Coppola, I don't know exactly what he was thinking with this movie, because it's not,
yeah,
because with like The Godfather, The Godfather is so restrained, and like so like everything is perfect about that movie, in my opinion. Like this movie is very much not like that. It's like he's just going for it. Like he's like just throwing just like paint on the canvas and just being like, let's see what happens here. And I think it worked, but
yeah, this definitely was an extravagant, over the top. Those are great words to describe this film.
Yeah. Did you like Gary Oldman?
You know, I liked him, but at the same time, I don't know. Sometimes I felt like he crossed into campy territory, and I wasn't a fan of that.
This movie is campy too, and I again, it's like I liked it. I like how Gary Oldman has so many different like forms. Like it's ridiculous, but it's like somehow I just like it. Like he's like an old like almost like a, not Nosferatu, but like a very weird like creature slash human at the beginning, and then he's like young, like almost like Johnny Depp looking Dracula, and then he's like, then he's a wolf monster, and then he's like this like almost like a gargoyle type thing, and then at the very end he's like this super old like decrepit beast. Like I just love all the different forms he has, and I think it's just so cool. Like he's just always changing to something else, and I thought that scene where and I feel like a scene that could have looked really bad, and I actually think they pulled off, was when Dracula is right after he converts Winona Ryder to be a vampire, and Van Helsing comes in. Like I thought that scene was cool, and I thought he looked pretty good. And,
oh yeah, when he's like the bat monster or whatever.
Yeah, like
that was pretty decently done. I mean, his makeup was very good for that.
Yeah, I feel like that could have been a lot worse, and I thought it ended up looking really cool, and the voice and everything, and the way he like goes into the dark, and then suddenly he's a bunch of rats. Like I just feel like this movie kind of throws the kitchen sink at all the different Dracula tropes and all the different Dracula things, and just puts it all into the movie, and I don't know, it worked for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking, but it's like the more I thought about it, the less I liked it. Once I had time to think about it, I don't know. I really wonder how Time is going to treat this film. That's what I'm curious.
I don't know. I thought this movie was kind of, I don't want to say panned, but I thought it was like more like, I feel like this movie is still very divisive. Like I feel like a lot of people hate it and some people love it. I feel like it's not a movie that is I don't know. I mean, I guess you said it had like a 70 or something on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, it had a pretty high score on Rotten Tomatoes. And it was a commercial success, too.
Was it really? I did not think
it made
it was
a lot of money at the box office.
Like, see, this is a movie I can't see being a commercial success. Like, I feel like
this was like pretty popular when it came out.
Like, I can just see a lot of people being disappointed when they saw this because it's not like it's not a movie I can see the average person liking at all. Like, because it's not. It's not very accessible.
Yeah, I mean that was a problem for me. Normally, it's not a problem for me, but this time it was.
No, and that's totally fair. I'm looking it up on Rotten Tomatoes. I want to see what something tells me these reviews are going to be like very, very
most of the reviews basically were agreeing with us that the narrative was weak, but everything else was good enough, more so to make up for it. I mean, I just feel like I'm on the opposite end that, the other stuff wasn't that special to me. So that's, why I just didn't like it in the end. Like, I don't even need a strong narrative, but this one, it was just like, it was almost like it was purposely trying to make it hard to follow.
No, and that's fair. And obviously, like, I know you like plenty of movies that don't have straightforward narratives. It's just, I guess it's like if you're, to me, it's like one of those movies that you're just either going to respond to it or you're not. Like, and I just did. I don't necessarily know why. I don't even think the performances across the board were great. Like, I see some of these people saying like it's an amazing cast, and I like Gary Oldman a lot, but that's about it. I mean, I think I don't mind. I think Anthony Hopkins is pretty good. Like, I like him near the end, but I guess Lucy is kind of interesting in spots. I think Renfield is interesting, but I wouldn't necessarily like jump to the cast as being the main thing in this. For me, it's like,
I mean, it had a lot of big names in it, but
for me, I would be like production design, cinematography, Gary Oldman, and like outright wackiness would be like probably the top 4 or 5 things that I would.
Yeah, speaking of the production design, Dracula's armor in the beginning, I'm not really sure what the deal with that was, but it looked amazing.
Dude, it looks so cool. It almost looked like skin or something. Like
I've never seen armor like that in a film.
No, the armor looks awesome, and his helmet, like I love all of that. Like the armor almost looked like muscles and tendons or something, like formed into armor. Like that armor is awesome. Like if I was a wealthy actor, I would like purchase that armor and display it in my place. Like that armor is so cool looking. I don't know. I don't know that I have a lot else to say. It's kind of like, I think we could probably both agree it's an experience.
Yeah, it's a unique experience.
Yeah, like it's not necessarily one you're gonna love, but I think it's worth seeing, if anything.
I mean, are we ready to give this sucker a rating?
Let's rate this thing. So, what are you going, Dave?
I think I'm also gonna go 5 out of 10, actually.
Alrighty, I'm going 8.2.
Ooh.
It's a strong one for me.
Like
I like it quite a bit. I like it quite a bit. So alrighty, so those are our reviews for a Halloween episode. We're gonna just finish this thing off with a quick little best of list here. We're gonna be talking horror movies. So I think we're just gonna go back and forth and count down our top 5 favorite horror movies of all time. And 'tis the season,
yeah.
So. All right, you want to kick things off, Dave, and do your number 5?
Yeah, number 5, I got The Thing.
Nice. Classic.
What about
I was torn between 2 movies. I might give an honorable mention and then my 5. I was between Poltergeist and Halloween.
Okay.
The original John Carpenter one. Poltergeist, I think it's just a lot of fun. Like, I just really enjoy it. And it's kind of nostalgic, too. Like, I used to watch it as a kid, and like, I still remember certain scenes vividly, like when he's washing his face and his face comes off in the sink. Like, that's a crazy scene. And Halloween is just classic. Like, I think it's just a really well done, just classic movie. I would say I'll go honorable mention to Poltergeist, and Halloween is my number 5.
Okay. Number 4, I got Jaws.
That's good. I was thinking Jaws. I mean, I guess that definitely is a horror movie.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not really scary to us now, but that movie apparently ruined beaches for a lot of people.
Yeah, my dad.
It's such a good movie that it's hard to classify it as horror.
Yeah, my dad will not go in the water anymore because of that movie. Like, it's or like, yeah, that definitely had an effect. The Jaws and Alien were 2 movies that I love both of those movies. I just didn't necessarily to me, neither of those movies are necessary. I mean, I can see why both of them are horror movies, but I just didn't think to put them on my list. But I do love both of them. My number 4 is The Shining.
Oh man, I forgot this. That would have been my number 1, but I'm sticking on it.
It's all good. It's good. It's just classic Jack Nicholson, classic Stanley Kubrick. It's just there's we don't even really need to cover it. It's just a great movie.
Yeah, that to me is the greatest horror movie ever made, but I forgot about it, so I'm not putting it on my list now.
If you haven't seen The Shining, shame on you. Just go watch it. What's your number 4?
So my number 3, I have Psycho, the original, obviously.
Oh, okay. I like it.
Alfred.
I don't know that I've ever sat down and watched the whole thing from beginning to end. I know I've seen all of it based on pieces, but I really need to do that. It's definitely a classic.
It's been years for me, but it's classic.
My number 3 is actually The Thing. So it's
okay.
That's just. I mean, these are all classics, really. What we're saying. I think The Thing is just. It's great. I didn't see it until I was probably in college and just loved it the first time I saw it. I love Kurt Russell. I love John Carpenter, and it's creepy. It's paranoia induced. Like it's just I love the Antarctic kind of setting to it. It's a great movie. What's your number 2?
All right. My number 2 is Audition, which I don't know if you saw that yet or not.
I never saw Audition. Is there eye stuff in that?
Yeah, that's got eye stuff in it.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. I think that always is what scared me about it. Like that
one's a rough ride.
Yeah,
it's only really got like one hard to get through scene with the eyes. That's it.
Yeah, because what is it like? His wife dies and like he.
I mean, I don't even remember the plot. I think his wife dies and he tries to figure out. All I can remember is that I don't remember anything about this film.
Yeah,
I just remember like specific scenes. And I remember the eye scene at the end.
Oh shit! I just don't know if I could get through that eye scene.
It's an experience.
Oh man, yeah. I'm just thinking about it, and I don't even know what it is, and I'm just like, ugh. My number 2 is The Exorcist, which to me is just to me it's the scariest movie of all time. I know some people don't think it's scary. I don't know. I'm not sure where you're at on this movie. I don't know if we've talked about it. Oh really? It's just. I think it's terrifying, and I think it's just the way they treat, like everything is just, there's just this tone of dread throughout the whole movie, and like the exorcism and the process itself is almost like procedural, like the way that everything plays out. It's one of the only movies like I don't know, it's hard for me to watch. Like I can barely get through it. Like it's just disturbing beyond belief. I don't even know. It's a classic, but
all right. And my number 1, since I forgot The Shining existed, is I made this list very recently. Is Alien, actually, which I thought it was funny. You were saying you don't really consider that a horror movie, which I kind of disagree. I mean, I think maybe it's more science fiction than horror, but it's definitely horror for me. And that's also amazing.
Especially Alien, like it really is a horror movie, like the way it's played out. For some reason, I always just group it into sci-fi, and probably because of the sequels and stuff, and I know it is a true horror movie. For some reason, I just didn't put it on my list, but I do love it, and it's a worthy addition to any horror list, because the way it plays out is definitely horror, but for some reason, I just always think sci-fi with it. But my number 1 is actually, I don't even know if you've seen it. I love this movie. It's Fright Night.
I don't think I've seen that yet.
It's an 80s vampire movie, and it's also like a horror comedy. I mean, it's not. There are some like somewhat scary scenes, but it's definitely has a lot of comedic stuff in it too. I just freaking love this movie. Like it is, I saw it when I was probably in either high school or like a little bit younger than that. So it's like also got kind of this nostalgic factor, but it's basically just a standard kind of vampire story where there's a boy, he's like a horror fan, and his next door neighbor is a vampire, and he basically has to like try to convince his family that he is a vampire, and he ends up going to like this TV actor who plays like kind of a Van Helsing type character on TV and hosts his own show. He has to try to get him to like help him, and it is just, I love it. Like, and it is the coolest vampire to me ever in movies. Like it's Chris Sarandon plays Jerry Dandridge. He's the vampire, and he's just amazing. Like, you have to watch it. Like, you've got to see this thing, because I'd be real curious what you think about it.
I think I've seen some of it at least, but I definitely haven't seen the whole film. I mean, I know about it.
Like, he's just, like, cool as hell. Like, he just always, like, is eating apples, and, like, he's, like, really charming, and, like, it's an amazing movie. I love it. Jess and I might watch it tonight, because she's never seen it. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, you've got to check that thing out, because I'd be really curious to see what you think about it. But that would be my number one. So those are our lists of horror movies that we clearly put a lot of time into.
Oh, yeah. I spent a very long time making my list.
Hours and hours.
A lot of research.
Oh, lots of research. Alrighty, well, I think that about kicks it for this episode. We're going to put a stake in it. Thank you for joining us, everybody. As always, follow us on social media. We have a Twitter account with serious_critics. And what else do we have? We have Facebook for Serious Film Critics. Send us your emails at seriousfilmcritics@gmail.com. We will read them if they're good.
Yeah,
and
we'll respond to them when we feel like it.
Yeah, whenever we feel like it. It could be a while from now. It could be, tomorrow. So we'll see. But all right, Dave. Anything else? Are you ready to hit the road?
I think I'm ready. Let's call
Alrighty,
it.
guys. Well, happy Halloween, and we will see you next time. We got a big episode coming up. I think we're gonna do a Taiwan episode.
Yeah. You won't want to miss this one.
You will not want to miss this, and that's all we're gonna say about it. So, take it easy, guys, and bye-bye.